Have you ever heard the saying, be careful what you ask for? This saying comes to life during an emergency interrogation on the deck of a storm-tossed ship that has been commandeered by heaven. Unfortunately, most English translations don't communicate the depth of the questions or the power of the answers that are embedded in the Hebrew Bible. But in our deep dive Bible study, we will. I know we have 4 levels of you all that are here. Some of you are level 1, you think the Bible's deep. Level 2, you put your toe in there every once in a while, you read it every once in a while. Level 3 are snorkelers who went with us in those first 7 episodes, and my scuba divers, those that are gonna go deeper. Now, what I'm hoping to do is that no matter what level you're at least gonna get on that dive ship with us so that we go out into the deep water. You may stay on the ship, you may jump out and get a little wet, you may have your snorkeling on, but some of you are gonna go deeper with us into the scuba dive realm is what I'm calling it. So here's what we're gonna do. Let's take a look at Jonah chapter 1, verse 8. And here's what it says in the NIV. Now again, I'm gonna switch between the NIV and the JPS. It is my hope that we'll do 2 verses in this one episode. First, Jonah chapter 1, verse 8 says this, "So they asked him." Now again, that's the NIV. Immediately when I see "so they asked him," my ears begin to perk up because I know that in the previous verse, they said, they used the word to say to them. And sure enough, in this verse, Jonah chapter 1, verse 8, they're looking at the Hebrew word vayomeru elav. That is vayomeru elav. Now that's Hebrew going from right to left. And then under that, we have the transliteration vayomeru elav. Right away, I see an opportunity to go a little deeper. They asked him versus they said. Now in Jonah 1:7, they saw the exact same word and they translated it as, "Then the sailors said to each other." Again, 1:8, they asked. 1:7, they said. I did something, I went a little bit deeper, folks. I went to Jeremiah chapter 36, verse 17, and I went to the NIV, and sure enough, they translate Jeremiah 36:17 as "they asked." Now, the Hebrew word behind "they asked" is sha'alu. Now, that's what I expected based on their translation. However, in Jonah chapter 1, verse 8, they said they asked, but it again is the word vayomeru. Here's the issue. The NIV translators sometimes have an agenda that they want to push forward. This is one of the many reasons that I have this long-term tiff with English translations. There are sometimes, say sometimes, where they decide to push their agenda more than looking at what is right there in front of them in the Hebrew. Let's go on to the next word. It is the word hagidana. Now, that is translated into the words in English in the NIV, "tell us." If I go to the same verse that we looked at earlier, Jeremiah 36:17, it says this, "Then they asked Baruch, 'Tell us.'" Now again, you have "tell us" in 1:8, "tell us" in Jeremiah 36:17, but there's something that we've got to slow down, scuba divers, and look at just a little bit deeper. On the screen, you see Hagidana. Now, at the same time, you see Hagedna. These 2 words are representing somewhat of a similar grammatical function. They're both imperatives, which means they're commands. But there's one thing that I'm hoping our producer, editor, director Stephanie can do, and that is to highlight the hey in Jonah chapter 1, verse 8. If she can highlight that hey, you will see that that hey is different. It's added. Some folks would call it a paragogic hey. I call it just an extra hey. But when you see that hey in the word in Jonah 1:8, and you don't see that hey in Jeremiah 36:17, something really powerful happens. Now, what do we see next? Beyond the extra hey, the next 2 letters with the dash are also significant. It is the word na. The meaning of na is oftentimes used as a polite way to say something. For example, Genesis 18:3-4. Here Abraham is having an encounter with the three men, angels, that have come down to see Sodom and Gomorrah. And here's what he does in English in the NIV. He says, if I found favor in your eyes, my Lord, do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under the tree. But if I look in my Hebrew Bible, I see 3 times the word na. In English, the if is imna, the do not is alna, and the let is yukachna. Now here's what's happening in Hebrew. Abraham is using na as a polite, reverential way of approaching these 3 angels from heaven. He's saying, please now, let now, if now. So then the question becomes, what about our word hagidana? In Jonah chapter 1, verse 8, the NIV says, hey, tell us. That is not what is happening in Hebrew. What is happening in Hebrew? It's tell us now with an exclamation mark. Can I bring one of my tools for you? The Juan Maroka Hebrew Grammar. Here's what it says. Since the nuance added by hey is virtually non-discernible, the emotive particle na is added if greater emphasis is required. Example, Numbers 23:27, go then exclamation mark. Please go exclamation mark. Let me tell you what's happening here. It is not a question, as the NIV is saying. Can you tell us? It is a command. These sailors are desperate. They know something has happened based on the previous verse. When they say Hagidah, nah, they're telling Jonah, look, tell us right now what's going on. Folks, this is an example of what we can find that makes it like HD. It makes so much more sense. The NIV is trying to establish questions, but there's no question here. This is actually a charge. They're telling him, look, Jonah, enough is enough. We know it's you. You ain't said anything. You haven't spoken a word. It's time for you to speak. Tell us right now. Hagidana. This is the imperative. In fact, I got to give you a secret. In Jonah, of all of the imperatives that he uses, the author of Jonah, only one time, can I say this? Only one time does Jonah, the author, use the paragogic or the extra hey with an imperative. That means that he is trying to communicate something that if we're reading in the Hebrew Bible, that literally jumps off the page. It's not like the NIV says, tell us who's responsible for this. No, this is something that is clear and a statement from those sailors to Jonah. You gotta tell us now. Now, as soon as you take a look at this, come back and we will keep studying. Hey folks, I found this when I actually taped the promo for this series. It's a shark tooth. We are taking territory and we're gonna do that with your help. We need you to like, we need you to comment, we need you to share. Embed it on your website if you'd like. Let's keep sending this message around the world about the deep dive Bible study into the book of Jonah. This is gonna be impossible, folks. How am I gonna be able to give you all of this information, inspiration, and revelation with limited time? I got an idea, but let's continue real quick. The NIV says this. So they asked him, tell us who is responsible. And this is a question that they're asking. Now, again, folks, I'm going to try not to overwhelm you, but the word that they're using for who is responsible, ba'asher lemi, is related back to 1:7, which we didn't talk about in depth because we were snorkeling. But since we're scuba diving, 1:7 uses a very rare word, which is beshelmi. They mean the same thing. Now, as a result, the Greek Septuagint, which is a translation from Hebrew, there are 3 main manuscripts of the Greek Septuagint. The Alexandrian, the one from Sinai, and the Vatican Septuagint. 2 of the 3, when they saw this phrase, they just simply removed it. What happens in the Alexandrian is they end up asking the question twice. In other words, in Jonah 1:7, they said, we need to find out who is responsible. They cast lots and they found out. And then in 1:8, the NIV translates it as if they got to ask the question again. So they asked him, tell us who is responsible for making all this trouble for us, ? That is not what's happening in the Hebrew. The reason they removed the phrase is that they believe it to be a marginal note addressing the rare word beshelmi, which is in the previous verse. Now just hang on, folks. Don't get overwhelmed. Here's what happens in the next part of the verse. So they asked him, tell us who is responsible for making all this trouble for us. Then in Jonah 1:7, they say, the sailors said to each other, who is responsible for this calamity? Again, you have the exact same Hebrew 3 words in 1:8 and 1:7. Hara'a hazot lanu. In 1:7, hara'a hazot lanu. Yet the NIV translates it one time for making all this trouble for us, and the second time for this calamity. Now, I want to make it easy for you all. I want to give you 3 translations that see it the way it is in Hebrew. The first one, Jonah 1:8 in the NIV, that is not one of them. They've asked a question. So they asked him, tell us who's responsible for making all this trouble. Jonah 1:8 in the New English Translation Septuagint. I love this. These are folks that are looking at the Septuagint, and they translate 1:8 this way. And they said to him, tell us on what account this calamity is among us. Then one more I want to give you is Jonah 1:8 from the JPS. It says this, they said to him, tell us, you who have brought this misfortune upon us. Now, folks, here's the thing. There's then 4 questions that are asked by the sailors. Those questions are absolutely important. They are using technical terms. Those terms are so important in Hebrew, they absolutely bring the meaning to the forefront so that when we get the answer from Jonah, it's clear what it is he's answering. I'm going to tell you something. I'm not going to be able to go into depth on these right now, but I won't leave you without the information. Just you wait and see. Let's now go to Jonah 1:9. Jonah 1:9 says this. Jonah's responding and he says this, I am a Hebrew, he replied. I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made both sea and land. That's the JPS. Now, folks, right away, I could have a problem with the JPS even. The JPS has kind of switched a little bit of word order. Here's what it says. Vayomer alehem ivri anochi, which means the word Hebrew is first, then the word I, which is a more of a formalized I. Anochi versus ani. Anochi is the same kind of I that's used in the beginning of the 10 Commandments, where Yehovah says, Anochi Yehovah Eloheka. That is, I am Yehovah your God. When he said this first word, ivri, it must have startled the sailors. Notice the JPS translation, I am a Hebrew. No, they missed the significance of the word order. We're going to see the word order is actually significant. The designation Hebrew is appropriate to this situation. It is used chiefly in contact with members of other nations. Check it for yourself. Genesis 14:13, Genesis 41:12, Exodus 1:16, Exodus 3:18, and 1 Samuel 4:6. This is an example where this word Hebrew jumps off the page. There's even more information I would love to give you, but I actually can't. I would like to say this. The meaning of this word is revelatory all on its own, beyond its context. However, when Jonah said this word, he was answering their most important question. Their questions were this: what do you do? From where are you coming? What is your land? And who are your people? Those are 2 categories. The first 2 questions, who are you, Jonah? The second 2 questions, who is the God behind what is happening? How do we know that? Because when you're asking someone about their land and their people, the assumption from the pagans is we've got to know the name of your God. The Jebusites, the Moabites, it goes on and on and on. They all had the land and the people and the God. This is clearly what is happening. The testimony of what happened in Egypt has actually translated itself all over the world. People are realizing that the God of the Hebrews is someone who actually acts. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of a slower look at this. But what I do want to say is this: I cannot rob you from the ability to get this information. And again, in just a few more minutes, I'm going to tell you how I'm going to give you this information in written form. I want you to do what I did. I want you to experience what I experienced. I want you to see what I saw. When I am reading my Hebrew Bible, in chapter 1, verse 8 and 9, the question and the answers are absolutely revelatory. I just wish I had more time to go into the depth with you, but for our scuba divers, I'm going to give you an opportunity to go further. For our snorkelers, you already have some of the information. For the ones that are kind of swimming, you got to make a decision, and those on the deck of the boat, you're going to have to decide whether you want to jump all the way in. I will tell you this. that when we look at Jonah chapter 1, verse 9 in the JPS, where it says, I worship the Lord, the God of heaven who made both sea and land, I think the JPS missed it. In fact, it says something so revelatory, I have to come back and explain it to you just a little bit more. We'll take each word slower, one by one, and in the end, you'll understand what makes me so excited about our deep dive Bible study into the book of Jonah. We have been working behind the scenes with the best producer you can imagine. Our producer has been working to make this as understandable as possible with the graphics and all of that, but we need you to participate with us. Like, comment, share, subscribe, push the bell icon, and let's keep studying in the deep dive Bible study into the book of Jonah. Folks, this is happening in real time. I'm just telling you right now, I have got some information on Jonah chapter 1, 8, and 9 that I would love to give those of you that are scuba divers. Let me give you the translation, what we call the Lost in Translation section, the KJV. Jonah 1, 8, and 9. Then they said to him, tell us now, you on whose account this evil is upon us, exclamation mark. What is your business? From where are you coming? What is your land and who are your people? Jonah responded to them, Hebrew am I, and it is Yehovah, God of the heavens, that I fear. I am a fearer of, is another way of saying it, the one who made the sea and the dry ground. Folks, I didn't come to that by just like waving, a wand or something. There's actually a way to study. What I want to share with you right now is a way that you can become a part of the next level of our Biblical Hebrew audio course. You join our academy and you get access to not only level 1, not only level 2, but level 3 of Biblical Hebrew. Take a look.
Dear friend, at Biblical Foundations Academy International, we believe that God reveals His will and His way through His Word, and we want to help you understand it in an exciting way. We promise to continuously bring you what we consider to be lightning in a bottle through our video presentations, and you can now experience it for yourself in our Academy Premium Content Library. Imagine yourself sipping a cup of tea or coffee in the morning, tablet in hand, or maybe crunching into an apple during lunch with your smartphone propped up on your desk. Or perhaps settling into your favorite chair after a long day of work, laptop open, ready to dig deeper into the things of God. In our academy, you'll have 24/7 access to a digital library filled with resources that will bring biblical language, history, and context alive for you. These presentations will equip you to understand and apply God's instruction in your life, wherever and whenever you are available. We have produced over 50 engaging presentations, making for a year's worth of weekly viewing. You'll get immediate access to Time Will Tell Season 1, filmed by Keith Johnson in Rome and Israel. The Road to Reformation series, outlining 8 steps to biblical reformation. His Hallowed Name, remastered and including a special update on God's name. The Now is the Time series, including the popular Christmas special. The 18-hour Open Door Live Teaching series with guest Nehemiah Gordon. The Right on Time series. The Growing Biblical Brick Teaching series. Premium Scripture Bites, bringing you ancient Hebrew Bible studies, one bite-sized portion at a time. And so much more to come. For as little as $9.99 a month or $99 a year, you'll get access to the entire BFA Premium Content Library. As an added bonus, you'll also have access to well over 100 other resources on the BFA International site, including dramatized readings, original songs, radio shows, and much more. When you join the Premium Content Library, you are helping us with the cost of producing even more inspirational content. In other words, your support will help us support you. And now, we've decided to throw the doors of the library wide open. For a full 7 days, we are offering you free membership. There's no need to wait any longer. You'll now be able to try it out for free and make sure you are completely satisfied before you pay anything. So start today. Upgrade your free membership now. Simply enter the Academy, then use the Premium Content Library dialog box on the right. If you are not already a free member, simply visit bfainternational.com and click Enter the Academy button to get started. So what are you waiting for? Enter the Premium Content Library today.
I hope that is clear. You become a part of the Premium Content Library and you have access to not only level 1, not only level 2, but even level 3 and anything else we do in the Biblical Hebrew audio course. Now, I've shared that information with you. Let's get those Bibles, crack them open, and let's keep studying.
Visit bfainternational.com today and join our online academy for free. You'll get immediate access to start watching all of Keith Johnson's latest programs, including the Time Will Tell series, Rediscovering God's Clock from Israel and Beyond, the Now is the Time miniseries, based in New York City and Washington, D.C., The Road to Reformation, a 10-step study for biblical reformation, the Open Door series, 18 hours of exciting teaching from a national speaking tour, His Hallowed Name, a series on God's name that was banned from TV. Also, hear directly from Keith Johnson through weekly personal blog updates. Why delay? Visit bfainternational.com right now. Then click the Enter the Academy button. Visit us today.
Before we throw the Phoenician, pagan, polytheistic sailors off the boat of reason for being too spiritual, I want you to answer 2 questions for me. First question, are Jonah's actions the cause of the violent storm? Second question, is the violent storm a reaction from God? Are there storms in your life that would benefit from some good old-fashioned spiritual questions? In other words, it's really easy sometimes to say, well, you're being too spiritual. That little thing over there that happened and that little thing over there that happened. But sometimes, might I say sometimes, Maestro in heaven, as big as he is, can sometimes get real small, so small that he will use circumstance. He will use the heavens. He will use the water. If we go through the book of Jonah, folks, this gets so deep. He even uses a worm. He's able to take every little part of life, the ins and the outs, the big and the small, to communicate to his people his love, his care, his purpose for them. And the issue is, sometimes you've got to ask the hard question. Are there any things going on in your life right now where you just need to slow down and say, well, what am I doing that might cause this situation that I'm facing? And how might the God that I love be using the circumstance behind the situation to try to not only get my attention, but possibly even the attention of those around me? In order for us to ask this question, we've got to be willing to study. Folks, I got to be honest with you. This is the way that I'm finding revelation, by opening the Bible, digging in, language, history, context, pronunciation, explanation, translation, and even application. And the Bible comes to life. Let's keep studying.